The Kabbalah. Everybody's into it these days, especially Madonna and the Hollywood stars. But the Orthodox rabbis say that Kabbalah is for the Jewish people alone, and then only for the spiritually mature. They even claim that study of the Kabbalah is dangerous for the uninitiated. So what's the Kabbalah really say? And are there some deep mystical secrets that are hidden right before our eyes? You're in for a surprise. Let's explore some of the hidden secrets of the Kabbalah. Until recently, the world of Jewish mysticism was a closed world. It was a world full of difficult spiritual concepts. It was a world that was unsafe to everyone except the most experienced spiritual travelers. It was a world that was open to Jews alone. In fact, according to Jewish tradition, only Jewish married men should study the Kabbalah, and only when they reached 40 years old. There's even a famous story about 4 ancient rabbis who gazed into the hidden spiritual realm, and only one of them came out alive and sane. And today it's the in thing to wear a Kabbalistic red string around your wrist. Even Britney Spears has been seen sporting one. So is this what Kabbalah is about? Just another spiritual fad?
First question. Have you heard of Kabbalah?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Kabbalah.
No, I haven't.
No, not really.
I have not.
I've heard a bit about Kabbalah.
Yes, I have.
Kabbalah. Oh, it must be some type of food, an Indian dish, hot, spicy, probably some chicken or beef.
According to Jewish author Michael Levin, what purports to be Kabbalah today is actually a mishmash of modern New Age thought. Much of what passes for Kabbalah could have been lifted from any of a dozen popular self-help books written in the last 20 years. Orthodox Rabbi Shmuley Boteach relates, "A few years ago, I appeared on a TV talk show whose celebrity host was involved with the Kabbalah Center, the international organization committed to promoting the ancient Jewish mystical tradition. The show offered Kabbalah mineral water to the guests, accompanied by literature claiming that the water had been blessed in some way as to alter its atomic composition. I remember thinking how sad it was that many of the influential people who appeared on the show had their first introduction to Judaism through this kind of garbage." Here's another sampling of the modern pop version of Kabbalah. Through meditation on the cosmic energy emitted by the Hebrew alphabet, adherents can gain inner peace, financial prosperity, power, and pleasure, amongst other things. Or how about this from Kabbalah.com? The red string protects us from the influences of the evil eye. It refers to the unfriendly stare and unkind glances we sometimes get from people around us. Kabbalah teaches us that we can remove intrusive negative influences by using tools such as the red string. I think you can see why Orthodox Jews have no sympathy whatsoever for contemporary Kabbalah. So what does the real Kabbalah have to say? Well, if you've ever tried studying mystical literature, the Kabbalistic literature, especially the Zohar, you found some pretty deep subjects, to say the least. And if you try studying it in the original Hebrew or Aramaic, it almost gets more complex. You run into subjects like the Ein Sof and the 10 Sfirot and Tzimtzum and Tikkun. What does it all mean? Well, let's start at the beginning. How does an invisible God create a visible world? How does the infinite one, which is literally what Ein Sof means, without end, how does the infinite one make room for the finite? If God's presence fills everything, then he'd somehow have to constrict himself to make room for his creation. This is the Kabbalistic concept called Tzimtzum, which literally means contraction or withdrawal. And according to one famous Kabbalistic teacher, Rabbi Isaac Luria, who lived in the 16th century, God literally had to shrink into himself to make a space for the universe. So according to this concept, it's not so much that God exists outside of the created world, as much as the created world exists inside of him. But there's still a problem. How does this infinite, invisible God interact with the created world, especially the human race? Well, according to the Kabbalists, there were 10 successive divine emanations or channels of divine energy called the 10 Sefirot. And through these, God comes into contact with the world He created. It's really fascinating to see how other spiritual communities wrestled with this very same problem.
Next question. Do you know what is in the Kabbalah?
Madonna's into it, and they have like Kabbalah water that they sell and like these little red bracelets.
Just that it's a Jewish form of theology, I think. I'm not sure.
Like this is Jeopardy.
I know that's an ancient Jewish part of their religion, part of what they want us to learn or they have learned.
No, I do not know what's in the Kabbalah.
Not exactly. I've only heard Madonna's involvement in it and some other celebrities.
I believe it's a form, it's like a Jewish mysticism, sort of folk tale type thing.
Years before the Jewish mystics began to pen their thoughts, there was another group called the Gnostics, and their origins may even predate the times of Jesus. The Greek word for knowledge is gnosis, and it comes into English in the word agnostic, meaning someone who claims they can't know. So the Gnostics were named after this word gnosis. They claimed to have a special illumination, a secret knowledge, a hidden wisdom, much like many Jewish mystics through the ages. And in the early centuries of this era, Gnosticism actually posed a threat to Christianity. It claimed a special and unique kind of enlightenment. And for the Gnostics, anything material was evil. The material creation, including the body, was regarded as inherently evil. Sparks of divinity, however, had been encapsulated in the bodies of certain pneumatic or spiritual individuals who were ignorant of their celestial origins. The transcendent God sent out a Redeemer who brought them salvation in the form of secret gnosis. Gnostics hoped to escape the prison of their bodies at death and to traverse the planetary spheres of hostile demons to be reunited with God. There are actually some fascinating parallels between Gnosticism and Jewish mysticism. Stay with me. The journey starts to get interesting from here.
Coming up next.
Well, I think of like people hiding out in caves and doing really weird things and just ghosts and spooky stuff.
So that's Jewish mysticism? Is it ghosts and caves?
I don't know.
Since the Gnostics viewed the material world as evil, I mean the earth itself, not just possessions, they also had to figure out, how does this perfect, invisible God come in contact with the created world? The answer? The demiurge, a lesser God who emanated from the transcendent God, and according to the Gnostics, it was the demiurge who created the world. Now this is actually very similar to the Kabbalistic concept of the 10 Sefirot, the 10 divine emanations, except in Jewish mysticism, there aren't two gods, a greater God and a lesser God, but one true God with 10 divine emanations. The first of these emanations was called Keter, which means crown. The last of them, which comes most directly into contact with this world, is called Malchut, kingdom. And this corresponds to the Shekhinah, which refers to the feminine aspects of God, the divine presence on the earth, God's dwelling among His people.
Tell me, was the Kabbalah produced by Jews, Hindus, or Satanists?
I would say the Hindus.
Hindus, I think.
I'm gonna say it's a Hindu.
Oh, Hindus, yeah, Kabbalah, yeah.
I'm not really sure who produced the Kabbalah.
Oh, wait. The Kabbalah, that's a book by the Jews with the numbers, numerology, right?
Kabbalah is produced by Jews.
I would say somewhat like it's Christian, right? Some kind of like Christian. I really don't know though.
Now I've got to tell you, as a Messianic Jew, a Jewish follower of Jesus, I find this absolutely fascinating. And it reminds me of a mystical truth found in the New Testament writings that most Jews have really completely misunderstood. And it's a concept that addresses the same profound question. How can an infinite, perfect God come in contact with finite, fallen man? This is where things really start to get interesting. What's one of the most common Jewish objections to Christianity? We Jews believe in one God, not three. You Christians believe in this semi-pagan concept of a Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. How crass. Well, let's revisit this objection in light of the Kabbalah. As Gnosticism developed, there were so-called Christian Gnostics, and they actually taught that the God of the Hebrew Scriptures was this demiurge, a lesser God, who emanated from the one true God, who was the Father of Jesus. And we've seen that Jewish mystics believed in one true God with 10 divine emanations. Well, the Jewish followers of Jesus, after lots of reflection on the Scriptures, and with insights given to them by Jesus, Yeshua himself, understood that God's unity was complex, actually a triunity. The Father, known in the Hebrew Bible as Yahweh, his Son, who came into the world through Jesus, through whom God revealed himself to man while remaining God in heaven, and his Spirit, who interacts with us on the earth. To be perfectly honest with you, after years of intense discussion with religious Jews, and after looking at this from every angle, I failed to see anything idolatrous, polytheistic, pagan about it at all. One true God, complex in his unity, who reveals himself and comes into this world through Jesus, and let me say it again, while remaining God in heaven, and who interacts with us by his Spirit. Perhaps this is a hidden mystery we need to consider. Perhaps the very thing that most Jews consider idolatrous, the idea that God came among us in the person of Jesus, is actually the answer to one of the biggest questions raised by the Jewish mystics. Yes, this is how the infinite transcendent God comes in contact with the human race. He's hidden, and yet he's revealed. And perhaps now we can better understand what Jesus meant when he prayed, "I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you've hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to babes." This is the mystery, hidden in plain sight, right in front of our eyes. And so many people just don't see it. Let's take a look at another important aspect of Jewish mysticism. The Kabbalists recognized that something catastrophic had happened to the world. Christian theologians explain this by pointing to the fall. In other words, we were created in God's image in a perfect world, and then we chose to go our own way, and that produced moral, spiritual, natural chaos. Well, the Kabbalists had a different take. They claimed that each of the 10 sefirot, the divine emanations, was housed in a shell of light called a klipa, or in the plural, klipot. What happened was that these klipot, these shells, were broken. It's called shvirat hakelim, the shattering of the vessels, and it scattered the divine light. So now there are divine sparks trapped throughout the world, and in human souls also. And our focus has to be now on tikkun ha'olam, which literally means the repair or the restoration of the world. As explained in an online glossary of the Kabbalah, tikkun is the spiritual process of liberating and retrieving the fragments of divine light trapped within the material realm, unconscious of God's presence, thereby restoring the world to its initially intended state of perfection. This is accomplished through the performance of mitzvot, the commandments of the Torah. Well, these are some pretty esoteric concepts, but once again, it gets me thinking about a number of important Messianic truths. Are you ready to hear some more?
Dr. Brown had a few questions for these people he found.
We're talking on the show about Jewish mysticism. So are you familiar with Jewish mysticism?
Like Kabbalah, like Madonna.
Kabbalah. So you think Kabbalah, Madonna.
Yeah.
Had you heard of it before her?
No, I guess more like when I heard of it was more when it was, surrounding like Hollywood, icons and things like that.
Got it. And mysticism, what does that mean to you?
Oh, kind of weird stuff. I knew one guy that was into it when he was really little. So just some of the memories from that.
Jewish guy?
Yeah, he was an Israeli. He was devoted mystically to something. I don't remember all that he said, but it was pretty wild.
Okay.
Well, I think of like people hiding out in caves and doing really weird things and just ghosts and spooky stuff.
So that's Jewish mysticism? Is it ghosts and caves?
I don't know.
Probably
I don't really know a whole lot about it.
Probably a takeoff on, Jewish religion, but in a, kind of overdrive mystical way.
All right. So one of the things that mystics deal with is this issue of connecting with the invisible God. Just a question for you. If God's the invisible God, right? He's untouchable, he's not physical like we are. How do we actually connect with God?
Well, I think like prayer is one way.
What about God revealing himself to us?
Yeah, well, that's where it's got to start. If he's untouchable and he's God, he has to make himself touchable by becoming one of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So God has to take the initiative. Invisible God comes down. So does he have to become visible? What do you think?
Well, I think he did become visible.
All right, so God becomes one of us so that we can relate to him and find out what he's like.
Still to come.
I think he's everywhere. I mean, he's not hidden. Yeah. If he's hidden, it's because you're hiding from him, not he's hiding from you. Yeah.
So what about these concepts of the divine sparks being scattered throughout the world and of our need to engage in tikkun ha'olam, the restoration of the world? Well, on a certain level, these are appealing concepts. I mean, lots of us are fascinated by esoteric spiritual ideas, and that's the appeal of mystical religion. You know, you can have special illumination. You can have secret information. Only the initiated understand. There's a verse in the book of Proverbs that says, stolen water is sweet and food eaten in secret is delicious. In other words, when something is illicit, it has much more power, like the lure of adultery on a married man. And that's sometimes how it is with mystical religion. It says to the outsiders, you're just too dense to get it. You're only looking on the surface of things. We have the real wisdom. Only the initiated really get it. But that presents a problem. I mean, why would God make it so difficult for us to understand his truth? If it's so important that we get involved in tikkun, spiritually restoring this broken world, why only let a few people in on the mission? It's really quite a big task. I suggest that God has revealed his wisdom for the entire world to see, literally, right before our eyes. Now, it's completely hidden to some. In fact, it's the last place that they would think of looking for God's plan. They don't see anything spiritual about it at all. And yet, when we humble ourselves, become like little children, and ask our Heavenly Father to reveal his truth, suddenly we get it. There it is. We were staring at God's solution to the fallen state of our race. We were looking at his way of tikkun, and we didn't see it. It was literally hidden in plain sight.
Okay, last question. Do you believe God is hidden?
I do not believe God is hidden. No, he's everywhere and everything.
No, I don't believe he's hidden at all. No, I believe he's just right here, out here. No, exactly. God is within you.
I think God is in all of us. We all feel him when we come to him by different ways.
I think he's everywhere. I mean, he's not hidden. If he's hidden, it's because you're hiding from him, not he's hiding from you.
I'm a Christian, so I believe he's like, everywhere, omnipresent and stuff like that, but I don't think he's hidden.
He's pretty much everywhere.
I don't believe God is hidden. I believe God is everywhere, and it's us. It's up to us to feel him, reach him. It isn't a matter of finding, it's a matter of knowing, I think.
What then is this hidden wisdom of God that's accessible to everyone? The sacred writings of the New Testament actually give us the answer. It's Jesus the Messiah who is, quote, the mystery of God, and in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Jesus, the crucified Jewish carpenter, who's revered by the Gentiles but rejected by his own people? Yes, this is the secret wisdom of God, a wisdom that was hidden but destined for our glory before time began. Do you see it? God has hidden himself in the most unlikely place, the rabbi from Nazareth, Jesus, called Christ. And so God's majesty is hidden in Jesus, Yeshua, and Yeshua's glory is hidden in us, his followers, and our lives are hidden in him. It's God's secret wisdom, hidden in plain sight. Is there anything about Jesus, about Yeshua, that you could say, I think he's kind of a mystic?
Well, I think he's mysterious in that we can't understand everything about him because I believe that he's God.
Okay. What do you think?
He seems mystic to me in terms of having a relationship with God and, being in touch with God at all times and being in touch with his surroundings and even other people's thoughts. you know, as the stories tell us. So he definitely was a very spiritual man, the most spiritual man, and taught us, I believe, what spirituality is. So if that fits into a definition of mysticism, then yes.
So last question real quick. In the New Testament, it talks about certain things being mysteries. You said you've read the New Testament. What do you take mystery to mean? Secret in the New Testament? Something that nobody can ever find out?
I think it's for those who, I think the mysteries of the New Testament are for those who submit to Jesus and his ways and who unlock those mysteries through a relationship. I think that's the key. You know, in my thinking, occultic mysteries are hidden in the darkness, but God's mysteries are hidden in the light. So Jesus says if you're willing to come into his light, that is his truth, get to know him on a personal level, then the mysteries will be revealed. If we refuse a relationship with Jesus, then those mysteries remain hidden.
Maybe when you hear the name Jesus, you immediately think of some uneducated backwoods preacher saying, brothers and sisters, if you want to be saved, you must put your faith in Jesus Christ. It sounds so foolish. It sounds like nonsense. But listen, God has hidden his wisdom in the foolishness of preaching, in the foolishness of the cross. Who would think of looking there? It's like a character in a movie everyone thinks is so dumb, but he's actually the sharpest one of all. We thought he was foolish. We were the ones getting fooled. Well, in the most profound and deep sense imaginable, God has hidden his wisdom and power and glory in his Son, the one called the bright morning star, Yeshua, the Messiah. It's written in the Zohar, the central book of Jewish mysticism, that the Messiah enters the hall of the sons of illness and summons upon himself all the diseases and all the pains and all the sufferings of Israel, that they should come upon him, and they come upon him. If he had not done this, he never could have survived. And this is how God brings tikkun. Jesus gathers upon himself all of our sin and disobedience and shame and defilement. And when we look to him, not only does he redeem us, but we become agents of redemption. It's all right here, hidden before your eyes, and it's ready to be revealed.